Wow. So this is the final episode of 2022. I'm so glad you're here. I'm kicking off by giving you a very small sound bite. I'm giving you extended preview of one of our first extended voices episode of 2023, which will air at the end of January. It is featuring best-selling author Martine Kalau. And I want to give you a little soundbite. I give you a longer preview in this episode, so stay tuned. Let's dig into a small sample soundbite of Martine, our first featured extended voices episode, which will also be airing on our YouTube channel. It is video as well.
In these uncharted waters where we don't know what to call someone, we're not sure what a person looks like on the outside, or how we perceive them is not necessarily how they identify themselves, right? So we don't know, and we don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to be shamed or blamed for being who we are, in the conversation around privilege, right? And so what my first answer is, I don't have the answers, right? I can tell you I prefer, but that doesn't mean that I speak for all other undocumented immigrants or all other stateless persons or all other Black women.
Wow. So I am so excited to premiere this episode in January, and I couldn't wait. I had to do one final episode so that you all could hear a full preview later in this episode. So as soon as this little segment ends, please listen to our ad. It helps give us support and helps continue expanding this podcast to get it to more people. And then you'll hear our theme song, and we'll hop right into the episode where we're going to explore what is gratitude really and why is it important. It kind of takes the turn that I wasn't even expecting when I was first starting talking about it. So I hope you enjoy it. And again, we will see you in 2023. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel in the show notes. Brand new, and also going to be where all of our extended voices podcast episodes air in 2023. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing when you find value. And I hope you enjoy this final episode of 2022. Take care. Welcome y bienvenidos to the Cultural Capacity Podcast, an Educator Aid Incorporated sponsored learning tool. I'm your host and guide, Justine Gonzalez, and here on the Cultural Capacity Podcast, we are committed to exploring and supporting individuals and organizations on their journey of self-aware leadership, emotional wellness, and development of effective cross-cultural communications. Be sure that you check out each of the show's episode notes, where every time we're sharing free learning resources and tools, as well as text recommendations, workshops, trainings, and featured guests in our monthly extended episodes, where we feature thought leaders, both existing and emerging, across these realms of topics that we explore together. The design of our episodes, like this one you're about to hear, is where we typically spend around 15 minutes diving deep with one specific question. This is intentional by design, so be sure that you tune in throughout the whole episode. Tap into the show notes to explore and examine both the free and paid resources for you and your teams, the organizations you serve in. And be sure to hit follow, subscribe, or share when you find value and feel led to share with others. I'm so glad that I'm here with you. I'm so glad, most of all, that you showed up for yourself today. Let's dive in together and let's continue to live out our lives in a compassionately curious way that brings out the best in not only ourselves, but in those we interact with every day. Welcome y bienvenidos to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. I am your host, Justine Gonzalez, and I want to start this episode straight away with some gratitude as we reflect on the past year, as we enter into the new chapter that is 2023. And my goodness, my first gratitude I want to give is to you all, the subscribers, those who listen, those who share and support us. Not only were we able to create sponsorship and become a profitable podcast, yeah, just small potatoes for now, but slowly but surely, this is what helps us keep going and serving up content and featuring some incredible guests that we will be featuring in 2023. I'm about to give you all a very sneak peek of our very first extended episode here on the Cultural Capacity Podcast. So that's a little gift for you all as you enter into the new year to kind of pique your appetite, so to speak, and get you excited for some other things that we're expanding on because of your subscribership, because of your support. We are able to continue producing content like this with featured voices that I'm about to talk a little bit more about. So I want to first just say thank you. Thank you for listening. And thank you most of all for showing up for yourself through this podcast. I do also want to give a huge, something I'm just incredibly thankful for. My longtime partner and he and I just became first-time homeowners. So if you hear a little background noise, I always say I do not go back and heavily edit these episodes, nor does our team. But just putting that out there, I always keep it real with you all. On that same vein, with it being the end of this year, that also means that yesterday actually was my sister's birthday. And I'm incredibly grateful to her and all of the work that she's helped us accomplish as part of the Educator Aid Incorporated team. She has now served as the creative director for Educator Aid Incorporated for over a year. And I am so thrilled that not only do I get to call her my sister, but I also get to call her my closest friend and just also be in business with her. So thank you, sister, Kara Gonzalez Howard. She is featured in some of these episodes. So make sure if this is your first episode you happen to catch, that you do go back and listen to some previous episodes as well. So let's dive in. You all know our typical format is every episode is about 15 minutes in length. And it is also always formatted in the form of a question to keep us going deep with one question that we're exploring together. It doesn't mean we're coming out with a definitive explanation, this is the right way, this is the wrong way type conclusion. It means let's get compassionately curious about understanding how we live life together on this little blue planet called Earth. So welcome again. I'm so glad you're here. Kicked off with a couple things and persons that I'm grateful for. And one of those people that I want to give you this sneak peek, and then I will close out with just a few stats and more thank yous about our podcast here, the Cultural Capacity Podcast. But one of the things is that we decided to start lining up for 2023 for you all some extended voices episodes. And what is an extended voices episode, you might be asking? Again, these formatted ones, our typical format here is very clear cut. We want you to use it as a resource to spark conversation, not just for yourself, maybe with your loved ones, maybe in the workplace, however you choose to leverage and utilize it. And we also like to say it's a bit like an a la carte, right? I can pick and scroll through what question kind of sparks my curiosity for that day and decide to listen to that episode. Or maybe you deliver professional learning in the workplace, or you're in a leadership role where you're doing staff trainings. Again, please share and take whatever you want from the podcast. That's why it's here. That's why we always include a resources section in the show notes. So back to these extended voices episodes. So though we just launched officially this podcast about a year ago, and we are streaming across Amazon, Apple, Audible, Google, and Spotify, we also typically reach listeners across consistently 15 to 20 countries. And then in 2023, we wanted to take it to another level when we realized that really many of our listeners are global. And I personally love that. You all hear my passions throughout this podcast, and it's really been my life story is understanding culture and cross-cultural communications. And how do we do that effectively and really grow authentic love and understanding for one another? And also acceptance. So, our longer formatted episodes, we are featuring voices that are existing and rising thought leaders across multiple sectors and industries. And the reason why is because I have this theory that we are so much more we have so much more in common across workplace sectors than what we realize. And because I work often with a lot of senior level leadership teams, I see this. I see it whether it's in corporate settings, whether it's in nonprofit settings or public education settings. Those are kind of the three main areas that I've served in as far as facilitation and training. And I find that there is a lot of commonality. And one of the things that always this comes back to is a lot of things that have to do with culture, our values, our beliefs, our language, the type of language we use, how we speak, how we communicate, and most of all, how we understand ourselves. In order to understand others very well, we have to understand ourselves and be committed to that ongoing learning journey within ourselves. So, you might be wondering, how is she going to bring this back to gratitude? So, my next point of gratitude is Martine Kalau. She is actually the sneak peek guest I'm giving you a view at. These extended episodes will be airing monthly beginning in January 2023. And our very first episode, oh my goodness. The reason why I'm also doing this episode, releasing it today, is because she has almost the same birthday as my sister, who I just gave a shout out to. So, Martine Kalau, she is a best selling author, but the snippet I'm also going to play for you, not only is she just an incredible, beautiful human being, and who's celebrating a birthday right around this time. So happy birthday, feliz cumpleaños. But she has also done so much in the lane of educating all of us and anyone she encounters really in her life's path about what it means to advocate for your experiences, and specifically her being a speaker, being an organizational development consultant, being in the DEI space. But namely in this episode, y'all, she shares her heart of how not only was she stateless, but just her journey to even become a resident within the United States and a citizen. And that whole process, it is fascinating. I learned so much in this conversation. So my gratitude, and also again a shout out, happy birthday to both my sister and Martine, both Capricorns. I want to play just a little sneak peek. So here's a snippet of just a small portion of this Extended Voices episode, a preview, and she will be the first episode that drops in January 2023.
Was totally developed by humans to have power and control. That's it.
That's
so
right.
It's anyways, I'll get off that soapbox, but my specific question was, what are some terms that people, if listeners are listening and they're like, all that I watch are maybe the news sometimes.
Yes.
What is the proper terms for our listeners to know? Like, is there something wrong with when people are still using the term illegal or illegal aliens or undocumented? I have my own belief and my own values that I utilize, but I wanted to ask you, because you probably get that question often, or you run into misuse of terms, and because you've also brought up this term of stateless, can you just break down like what are the terms people should use, especially if they're listening to like, well, I've never met somebody with Martine's story. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. I think that that's such an important question in this conversation anywhere, because all of us we're now navigating in these uncharted waters where we don't know what to call someone. We're not sure what a person looks like on the outside or how we perceive them is not necessarily how they identify themselves, right? So we don't know, and we don't want to say the wrong thing. We don't want to be shamed or blamed for being who we are. In the conversation around privilege, right?
Right.
And so, what my first answer is, I don't have the answers, right? I can tell you I prefer, but that doesn't mean that I speak for all other undocumented immigrants or all other stateless persons or all other Black women. You might meet another woman who looks exactly like me, my complexion, everything, who says, no, I'm not Black. Please refer to me as African American. Then you might go to the next woman and she might say, no, I'm not Black. Please don't refer to me as Black or African American. Please refer to me as African, right? Or Congolese.
Or
And
Caribbean,
so
or
whatever. But that is why I
All right, so you all just got a sneak preview, the first preview we're dropping for our January Extended Voices episode that is going to be airing and live by the end of January. We will obviously continue this format and have these shorter formats, but based on your feedback, we also do not hold anything too precious because we are here to share with you and to get compassionately curious together with you. So, based on what you tell us, is how we respond. So, thank you, Martine. Again, happy birthday. We are so excited that you are going to be our first Extended Voices episode. And so, let's bring this full circle with our gratitude. We spent some time doing shout outs, and I really want to break down this question: what is gratitude and why is it important? And one of the things I reflect on, language is so important, and is such a driver and thread that is woven all throughout the fabric of each of our cultures, right? And so I'm looking up this term, as you guys hear me do often, is really break down the true meaning of a word. And in our definition within the Oxford Dictionary that exists, gratitude is the quality of being thankful. It's readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. That part, that ending part, is something actually that I've expounded often on, because one of the things that I struggle with personally, and it's very important to me to always continue my ongoing lifelong journey of understanding cross-cultural communications, is that I experience the world through a very specific lens. Just like any other human like you listening, you experience the world through a very specific lens that includes a whole kind of concoction of cultural context, your personality, your environments that you live in, your experiences that you've lived and had in your life, perhaps the traumas that also cause pain and grief and some difficult moments to work through healing. And we're here, we're all having these experiences. And I find myself, because I'm a very emotional being, I'm a very highly sensitive person and very intuitive. So one of the things I've struggled with really since I was a child was not always forcing that expectation for someone else to see things that way and or reciprocate things in the same exact way. And I think that that's probably challenging, even if you're not a person who's very overtly emotional or has struggles like I do with what I just named for myself, as far as things that can be some barriers to effective communication or ensuring that we are understood by the person we are attempting to communicate with. So the thing that got me, and I said that part, was I always look for that reciprocation. And I think all of us look for reciprocation in when we talk about love or friendship or relationships. But I want to go a little deeper underneath that and unpack what I just spoke about candidly and say, what, though, are we expecting as the return to kindness? Are you going into relationships, be they professional or personal, and are you looking for somebody to show you appreciation and return kindness in the same exact way that you happen to give that? And are you willing to accept that people do as much as they can with the bandwidth that they have? That is very difficult. That is difficult, I think, for many, many of us in this human experience. So I want to put that out there because as we go into 2023 and you hear so much about gratitude in the workplace, I have gratitude practices. That's wonderful. But I got very curious about what is actually the definition of what that means. And are we also willing to accept people where they are at when it is that ending part? Again, the full definition is the quality of being thankful, readiness to show appreciation for, and to return kindness. Can we still accept something as kindness, even if it's not delivered in the way that we exactly want it, in the moments we exactly want it, in the way how we see it? No, I don't know, because then you're projecting all of your expectations, right? So how do you kind of meet in the middle? So I'm off on one of my little tangents, just expounding and getting curious, which is what we do. So thank you all for tuning in. My hope for you in 2023 is that you continue to get compassionately curious about yourself so that you can go even deeper in your connections and relationships with others. My final thank you and gratitude moment for this episode, this final episode of 2022, is just the celebration that in this first year, essentially, of our podcast, that our podcast, according to our data on Spotify, thank you, Spotify, woo woo, you are the ones who make it possible for us to bring in a little bit of money and support for this podcast to continue doing what we do and to continue expanding our team to make it even better for you all. But because of your support, our podcast has actually been reaching and shared the most. We are in the top 15% of the most globally shared podcasts in all of the world. And so I want to say thank you to you all, because you have made that possible. And we appreciate every share on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. When you text it to somebody like, hey, check this out, or, oh man, what do you think about this? We are here to start a conversation. We are here to explore together and build capacity. And that's a continuum. Some days we have a lot of capacity for gratitude. Other days we might want to crawl under a blanket or crawl into a shell and go, oof, I got to process some pretty hard emotions right now. And can we be okay to be still and be in that moment? Either way. So thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. And please check out, we do have a brand new blog with a few new posts on the website, the educatoraid.com website. So I'll link one of those so you can check it out if that's your thing. We're going to continue to put a lot more free resources. I will also put our brand new YouTube channel where you can also stream these podcasts. And that is also where you will see the debuts, the premieres of the Extended Voices interviews, just like you heard the preview with Martine. Those are video. So those will actually be found on YouTube. So I will put that subscribe in the show notes. So please be sure to check out those two free resources, our brand new Educator Aid YouTube channel, which already has some free trainings. And then we also will have one of our blog articles for you to check out. Okay. Thank you all. Let's continue to get compassionately curious together as we enter the journey, the chapter of 2023. Take care. Thank you so much for showing up for yourself today and also tuning in to this episode of the Cultural Capacity Podcast. We couldn't do this show without the help and support of listeners and viewers in 2023, when we will add our extended episodes to our YouTube channel. So please search Educator Aid on YouTube and subscribe now. We are in the process of officially launching that channel. Haven't been utilizing it for a number of years, and we're excited. We're excited to have you join in on these powerful conversations where we are going to be having some extended episodes, and you get to sit down and tune in and learn from some incredible thought leaders. So again, thank you for your commitment to yourself and your own personal learning as well as professional development journey. I thank you for being here, and let's continue to get compassionately curious together. Take care.